Do you think we should be going for a 25% parity? So do you think that RuneScape is taking a different tack compared to like other live service games in that way, do you think?
Yes, for sure.
How do you view the daily challenges system right now in its place in RuneScape? Hey there, Scapers. Mod Anvil here, along with Mod Ryan.
Hey everyone.
All right, Ryan. February's done. March is done. It's been pretty busy, right? How's it been for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're 3-4 months almost into the year now. It's been super exciting, of course, to see the Road to Restoration kick off fully, but then equally to where we are today, tackling those projects and equally getting something so big out there like Havenhearth. We're seeing new players come in. Mm-hmm. We're seeing people return to the game, whether they've returning for the changes we've already been making or just because of what they heard, what we're working towards this whole year.
At that January 19th moment, with the Road to Restoration, with our roadmap reveal, and in community, we don't just sit on Reddit necessarily or on Steam or on Twitter. We do use a more sophisticated tool set to actually track conversation across the entire internet. And what's incredible to see is that from that moment when we started down this road to restoration, on average, we're seeing about 5,000 to 10,000 more voices, more people.
Which is insane.
Right? Talking every single month about what's happening in RuneScape, right? And that number, that's comparing to the previous months of 2025 and everything that happened before January. So we've seen this big upswing in people just engaging with the game and really getting involved and making it the game that they want it to be as well. As much as we, of course, want it to be the best RuneScape as well. In that case, for you as a player with your maxed accountants and whatnot, what's been the best thing we've done so far? Do you think?
I don't tend to pick favorite things. As a player, I think it's all meaningful in different ways. Thinking about like DailyScape, what that means to many people, like people I know, friends, people I just, let's say, for example, on my home world, like how they talk about how they play. It's obviously changed drastically since the change to DailyScape, but equally combat, like the friends that weren't big combat players are now loving it, especially like Melee. So I think honestly, it's a combination of everything. Yeah, not a great answer for you other than everything.
So I remember that week in February when we rolled out our game design vision, and that was great. But that vision, those pillars in a way have informed everything else, right? So could you remind us what those are? Because they'll be relevant today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we outlined our design goals in that blog. The first one of those was to make a game that's easy to understand, but still full of meaningful choice and depth. The second was a grounded with a clear identity that is unmistakably RuneScape. The third, play because it's fun and not because you feel like you have to. And fourth was a meaningful journey no matter when you start. All four of those equally important, and they are the sort of the backbone behind the decisions we've been making on the road to restoration and carrying forward between each of those updates.
Okay, let's start with the early game rebalance. Any thoughts?
Yes.
How'd it go?
Yeah, so it went really well. From a player side of things, there's a whole bunch of changes that they would have seen, right? But behind the scenes, we're looking at the data and seeing like more engagement within the early levels for new players and returning players who are in that bracket. We're seeing that new players are taking less time to get to around level 35 in the various skills, agility, hunter, thieving that we tackled. So as a new player, it was like 6 or 7 days to get to a bunch of level 35 skills. We're down to about 4 or 5 days now, which is really important because the early game experience hasn't really been touched that much over the years. And it was an opportunity for us to tackle some of those like pain points for those players. The sorts of things that, as active players, you might not really see. Pickpocketing, using it as a very good example. In an early game, your thieving success rate was so low that there was so much friction there. You tried to thieve any NPC and you just get whacked and told to get out of their pockets. But equally, we've got a lot of data showing how valuable each of these improvements are. But we also know that there's still more to do in the early game. Yeah. So it's not just about changing these sort of balancing within these levels. It's also about, we're going to go back to it in the future and look about what we can do about the post-tutorial experience.
I think we've probably landed that update quite well for the new players.
Yep.
Of course, we did have a knock-on effect for some of the end game and mid game players, particularly with regards to thieving.
Yep.
And there was also the question that arose around AFKing, right? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I will say here, we aren't looking to remove AFK from the game. In fact, it's the opposite. We want there to be options, throughout all the skills, whether you have AFK options, lean forward options. It's really about making sure that they are appropriately rewarding. So, you are rewarded for leaning in, putting a lot of effort in, and equally say rewarded less if it's more AFK method. So with some of the thieving changes we made for pickpocketing, they're sort of like systematic changes in changing how pickpocketing worked in general. And it looked like we got something wrong, and we worked with the community to resolving that. We went out like making the AFK a lot less, so it matched appropriately towards the rewards from GP and XP that you were getting.
Yeah, let's throw up the graph, the little diagram.
Yeah, the spider diagram. Right. Yeah, it shows
can you talk us through that for a moment?
Very useful. It shows like beforehand, pickpocketing was really AFK, but equally really rewarding for XP and really rewarding for GP. However, then the first changes we made it a lot less AFK. Bringing it down from high end from like 15 minutes down to like 2.5 minutes was noted. Yeah. Players weren't necessarily happy with that.
Unpredictable as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And
they noted to us, which is perfectly really good point, is that pickpocketing was that avenue in thieving at a high level, which was an AFK method in that skill. And we agreed, we wanted to make it more AFK again. So we did, but equally following our sort of triangle, our formula, we wanted to bring down the XP and the GP appropriately so that it is an AFK method, but isn't the most rewarding for those. We want, most, if not all skills to have viable methods for AFK.
Combat.
Yep.
Let's talk combat. So we ran a beta test for about 4 weeks, and we launched that combat beta or that combat modernization update at the start of March. How did it go, do you think?
The update was really focused on improving the early to mid to getting into the styles, removing some of the friction, removing some of the ability bloat. And yeah, it's done really, really well for us. From a data standpoint, the sorts of things that, those watching wouldn't be too aware of is prior to release, Necromancy had about 60% of the distribution of style usage against bosses. And then post-update, it was down to 43%. Melee came up quite a lot. Magic came up a little bit, and then range equally came up as well. So this is really awesome because it's allowing all styles to become more viable. And you'll see anecdotally as well, just seeing people talk about like how much they're loving getting into melee or getting into a style they weren't used to. And then equally from more data standpoints, there are more people trying new bosses because they're picking up styles that they weren't familiar with. They're not all necessarily relying on Necromancy as much, which is great. It's great for the long term of the game for new returning players getting into any of the styles because we aren't a style-based game. So you have access to all 4 styles at any given time. We want them all to feel enjoyable.
Do you think we should be going for a 25%
No,
parity?
It's in any game. There's a good phrase. I'm not going to quote it correctly, but like a balanced game is not necessarily a fun game. And I don't mean that in the sense of if we had all styles equally 25%, what are we trying to achieve there? I think with RuneScape, we want players to have fun, and not every style is used because of, for argument's sake, for its power or how it, using the argument of sustain. There is a power fantasy beyond just what is the most balanced, let's say. I think what we want, the main goal is, and it has been achieved here, which is making all 4 styles viable options to every player.
The update has been largely wrapped up now, but I'm pretty sure the combat team is still going to be tinkering around.
Yeah, combat is a forever project, right?
Yeah,
like it's all part of the game. There's always things to change, always things to improve, always things to work on. But the update that was made here has really helped a lot with the early to mid game, like real big focus on allowing, like I say, versatility and viability of styles.
Let's keep things going then. DailyScape overhaul. Can you spin us a yarn as to what DailyScape was for those people who maybe are just coming fresh to RuneScape now, and what our approach to it was?
Really like to summarize some of the DailyScape concerns is it comes back to the design goal earlier. We want the game to be fun to play and to play your way. The idea that you log in every day and there is a bunch of, let's say, chores that you need to do or feel that you need to do. Now, there are many players that will say, oh, you don't need to do them, but that's just inherently the way these have been designed, right? Whether, to your point, like they are the most efficient thing to do, whether it's effective efficiency. we want it to just feel authentic. You log in, and if you want to go and do that thing, you go and do that thing. So DailyScape was really just tackling a lot of those, making the game fun for what it is, and making you feel less forced to do certain activities.
So do you think that RuneScape is taking a different tack compared to like other live service games in that way, do you think?
Yes, for sure. We want RuneScape to be different to other games in this space. We want you to, like I say, do what you want. There's no like laundry list of tasks to do or encourage you to log in every day to do these tasks. If you want to log in today to play the game because it's exciting to play, it's exactly where we want it to be. If you want to take a break from the game, that's also okay. And that's really what DailyScape was focused on. From a data standpoint though, we know that there was a good portion of the player base doing upwards of 12 dailies every single day.
That's exhausting.
And that's come down massively to almost nothing. We're in a position now where if you just want to log in, like I say, and play, you can.
Awesome. So daily challenges then, right? That's a good way of getting to those now. We've kept the system in, and of course players have had opinions about that because a lot of people will say that is fundamentally DailyScape. But how do you view the daily challenges system right now and its place in RuneScape?
Daily challenges do serve quite a good purpose for new players or returning players when they just aren't sure what to do. There's a thing go and cut some logs, which might sound like a simple task, but it gets you engaged. It gives you something to do instead of logging in and being lost. It essentially acts as a bit of a recommendation system. But I will say, longer term, like we do want to remove them completely from the game. But in doing so, that'll be when we're in a position that for argument's sake, we've replaced that with something like a recommendation system. So when you log in and if you aren't sure what to do, it might say, hey, go and level your woodcutting up 2 levels so you can do X quest, something like that. But for now, that's why we kept it in its form, but essentially address the main sources of what sort of made you feel forced to do them every day, the ability to extend the reward track, etc.
Can you talk us through some of the changes we saw there on a data level, right, across the entire player base?
Yeah, so kind of what I mentioned earlier around seeing more players, new players, returning players coming to the game. Equally, like since the removal of Treasure Hunter, we've seen an increase of about 10% in the total number of sessions the players are starting. So that's just more player sessions overall, people playing more often. And equally, within those sessions, the duration of them has gone up by about 5%, which is really awesome, because that means that arguably with the changes we've made, you can infer a couple of things about like people are playing for longer because they're enjoying playing for longer, or because essentially session length has gone up. We've seen a lot less short sessions, which to the point, log in, do some dailies, log out. A lot of that has changed as well.
We've also got the topic of performance, right? You want to talk to that? Yeah,
absolutely. It's on our radar. Like we hear you loud and clear. We want to improve the fidelity of all of our assets in game, bring the game quality up. But with that in mind, we want the performance of the game to run exactly as you expect it. So we are aware of some of these performance issues. Earlier in the month, with Haven Hive release, we made some changes to trees, which has helped a little, but absolutely hasn't solved all the problems that players are still noting. And hopefully, as you say, we can put a community topic out to talk more about it in detail.
Let's move on to what's coming up in the month ahead. We are recording on March the 25th. So by the time this video rolls out, we'll have just released the Blooming Burrow spring event and an update to the cosmetic toggle. So that's coming out next Monday. So as seasonal events go, since Treasure Hunter's removal, what's our approach to them? How have we changed?
Yeah, so previously, a number of the seasonal events, they were, lack of a better term, they were quite grindy. You'd come in, there's a lot of, whether it's however long they run for, you're encouraged to keep grinding them out to earn the currency, to purchase the rewards. So going forward, what we plan to do is, make them less grindy, let's say, more drop in and drop out. You come in, you complete the quest, but equally, rebalancing some of the actual currency gain rates so that you can acquire the past cosmetics a lot quicker.
What's the cosmetic toggle and what's the update that we're bringing?
Yeah, so cosmetic toggle, an option that you can toggle on or off to essentially display or hide other players' cosmetic overrides. Yep. On January 19th, the cosmetic toggle options we gave the players could disable other players' worn overrides and equally their animation overrides. The one thing we didn't offer, which is what we are offering in this new update, is the ability to hide other players' familiar overrides.
People are probably going to ask about necro summons and being able to disable seeing those entirely. People don't necessarily want to see other, well, I say people, some players may not want to see other players, skeletons, ghosts and whatnot.
Yeah, so we aren't looking to the point you mentioned, we aren't looking to make them invisible, but we are looking to make some modifications to them in the near future, hoping to make them less like, as part of like visual decluttering, whether they're less visible, so more, if they're not your own ones, that they're more like ghost form, which sounds odd. How do you make a ghost look more like a ghost? But just a bit more phased out, let's say, less, more transparent.
Week 2 then, right. In week 2 of April, we'll be discussing community topics specifically around graphical rendering.
Yeah, this is honestly one of my favorite changes that's coming up. Been talking about it for a very long time. I know the players have been talking about it for a very long time. But over the last number of years, players have pointed out various issues with the way in which some of our newer assets are rendered. And these are sorts of things we're looking to tackle. And with this blog, we'll be talking about that. We're going to show the progress of getting away from these overly shiny assets, adding some of the texture detailing back to things which I know players have seen since January 19th with like rocks as an example. They've seen they're less plastic looking rocks, more rock looking rocks. And then equally making some of the more like washed out colors more vibrant again. So yeah, these sort of 3 like solid points really going to nail that visual aesthetic that we know we've always wanted, we love, and equally what the players have been asking us for.
Week 3 sees the arrival of the Aura Overhaul game update. What's your general thoughts on the Aura Overhaul?
The team have been working with the community, I think 2 blogs plus discussion around the changes to make. A whole bunch of stuff becomes just general improvements through passive effects and stuff that are unlocked. And then equally sort of just putting us in a position where, auras aren't they're a thing of the past. And I say like this Aura update is probably one of the last, when I say last updates, it's one of the last sort of, we're taking a few things away. A lot of the Road to Restoration updates going forward, and equally all the content like post-Haven Hive, it's all new things, all new positive ads and like mid-game rebalance. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't talk about today because that's not part of the month. But
for me, that's really exciting to hear, actually. I in a way hadn't yet visualized that until you've said it just now.
Exactly, yeah, because fundamentally we want to make a fun game for another 25 years. And that's made up of solving some core design problems, which in some cases can feel like we're taking stuff away, but equally adding appropriately back, solving other problems. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of awesome stuff beyond just this month ahead going forward, all positive, all like ads. I'm so excited. I said this in my check-in video. There's no better time to play than now. And then I will say that every single time we talk, because there will be no better time than the latest time in which I say it. So
cool. So week 4, we're into the final week of April already. We have the player avatar check-in. Now, why is it so important for that graphical rendering stuff to have launched by the time we're then able or ready to talk about the next step for avatar?
Yeah, so with the rendering changes I mentioned, with some of our newer assets, especially character assets being overly shiny or looking plasticky, let's say, we absolutely do not want that for the avatar. We want these changes to be live so that when we have an opportunity to put the avatar work in front of the players, and also offer up an opportunity to take part in like a beta. Oh, sorry, spoilers. But take part in a beta means that they'll get to see it for what it is, for what they'll get when it hits the game later this year.
But sweet, I think that pretty much covers us for today. Mod Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Can't shake your hand.
Any final words to see us out?
Yeah, I think honestly, thanks to the whole community for where we're at today. A lot of the Road to Restoration work is for them. And it's really awesome. Like, we're learning a lot with the players, making the right changes for the game, but adopting them with yourselves. And ultimately, I think, like I say, there's no better time to play than now. And I think, looking forward to chatting again with you in a month's time and to the players.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And there you have it. Let us know what you enjoyed about today's video so we can keep evolving the format. It'd be great to get some of your burning quickfire questions in here next time as well. With that in mind, I guess we'll see you very soon. Latest in a month from now.